Okay, so we're going to go through the week of January 28 quiz answers. So we're going to go through this quiz. It's a pretty interesting quiz, I think. There's some very interesting lines. Okay, so what do you guys think about this first one?
So initially I was a little bit confused. There's a misspell at the top, so that confused my thinking. So I think I got this one completely wrong. But 7-2 is not in range, right?
Why do you think that?
That means it is in range. So I've got this wrong. Because it's just too weak to call into a too big line open.
Is that let me pull up my sims?
Well,
Could be the case. I mean, I don't know. I've looked at this in a while.
is my mic working?
Yeah.
So this is the pre-flop big blind versus button 2 big blind open.
Right. Okay.
So 7-2 suited is well within range there.
Right. That's really interesting.
Yeah, your mic's working fine.
All right, so I haven't really looked at the quiz yet, but my first thought was that Queen Deuce of Hearts was not in the range because of the because we wouldn't dunk it is what I was thinking.
Yep, that's a good assessment.
So I'll be honest, I haven't ever looked into dunking flops though. So
I mean, yeah, the dunking flop's pretty not uncommon.
Yeah,
especially
like,
when you
I
start
know
facing like
nothing
big
about it.
open sizes, then yeah, you should be dunking flops like all the time.
Sorry.
When you start facing bigger open sizes, you should be dunking flops quite frequently.
When you face big opens?
Yeah, bigger opens, and
Okay.
you've got holding range. Yeah, Queen 2 suited is not within of hearts, not within range because it doesn't dunk the flop.
Maybe for just for understanding purposes, is the flops that we dunk, is it mainly the ones that have a lot of like 8, 7, 6s, 5s in it?
Yeah, it depends on the differences between the two ranges.
Yeah. But like a heuristic would be.
Yeah, so here's got a lot of offsuit 7s and 6s. And so that means the density of 7x and 6x in hero's range is much higher. 7x is very close to the nuts, and 6x is a reasonably strong hand.
Mhm.
So for that reason, hero's got hero's got sort of a more of a nut advantage.
Yep.
And
Okay.
so you can dunk that a little bit.
All right. Moving on, I guess. So I'm pretty sure that 7 deuce and ace 7 are going to be the raise and razor call. And I'm not sure which one's which.
I felt like the ace 7 might be actually the one that we call because it's unlikely to be drawn out on.
Sorry?
I felt like ace 7 would be the one that we might want to put in a calling range to protect our check calling range.
Yep, I can see that, especially because 7 deuce has the flush draw.
Yeah.
But I know it's going to be something about blocking the flush draw. There might be something about blocking the flush draw.
Right.
So if we block the flush draw, it means he's less likely to have a flush draw, which is something he would call. if we raised.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make any sense to anyone?
Makes sense to me.
But at the same time, we have the 7 of clubs, so it's not like it's crazy blocking. Because, the 7 of clubs just makes your hand really strong no matter what. And blocks him from having it. So, I'll be honest, I just know so little about donking flops that this gets really tough.
Yeah, so I mean, the trick with donking the flop is you don't look at it very much differently from you being the preflop aggressor. So
Okay.
it's roughly the same. So the idea is with the preflop aggressor is that they have the uncapped range, and so they can use it to bet more frequently on the flop.
Right.
And that's why the average player needs to check. But on certain flops like this one, that's not necessarily the case. So the preflop caller here can take the lead because they have the uncapped range with the lot of 7x in their range. And so that's what they've done. So if you were in the small blind and you open and the big blind calls, right, you're the preflop aggressor, you've got the stronger range of most flops, and so you would bet at a reasonably high frequency, right? You wouldn't just check everything because you're out of position. It's the same sort of idea. There shouldn't be too much differences in your thought process between those two situations. So in the spots that you've studied, when you open the small blind and the big blind calls, some of that can be brought over to donking the flop as the preflop caller.
Yep. I'm gonna put so the other thing is it becomes pretty straightforward to me which ones we might want to like bet or raise for value, but like which ones we might want to do as a bluff gets probably a lot harder for me. But I think 7 deuce of clubs would probably just go in the straight raise range. Because you don't block him from having overs, I might call, or float or whatever. And I don't think blocking the flush draws is that important.
So here on the turn, what overs are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure that the overs that are important are the ones over a 7.
You think they would call a raise?
If we call,
So it's like he like Willem has like Jack 10, they're going to call a raise.
I don't think Jack 10 calls a raise. I mean, I guess this is hard.
On 7, 7, 6, 20. Seems obvious to me.
Sorry.
All right. So do we have any idea what to do? So I'll give you guys a hint with this one. So this one's just as a plain call.
Okay.
Okay.
So you usually want to raise your stronger ones to get value from the weaker ones. And blocking the flush draw is not as good because you don't get called as often.
So A7 is probably a raise.
Yeah. So like out of all your flush draws, right, you're going to be raising most of them, or at least a good chunk of them as a bluff yourself, right? So you're going to want to have some flush draws in your calling range, and just because of how poker works, it is possible to have a flush and trips at the same time.
So that's just an adequate hand to protect your check calling range, right? Is it?
Yeah. I mean, there's that when a flush comes, it's great because not only do you block flushes, you also block boats, so you can continue against a lot of aggression there.
Okay.
So am I correct that ace seven might be the raise?
Yep. So you got to weigh up your options. So we're going to think either raise or call.
Yeah.
So do you think A7 has any benefits to just calling?
The reason I thought yes, but the reason I thought you might want to raise it is because you can then like bet you probably can then be either on the turn or on the river. That matter too much because you can probably just lead out small and hopefully get raised a lot, or just lead yourself big.
I think King Jack might be the raise as a bluff.
So why would King Jack raise?
We've got lots of sevens. We need some bluffs. It's got no showdown value. So
Yeah, I mean,
if we're gonna have a call or fold, I think that might be ace four. So if we raise King Jack and raise up, I think ace seven might be a little bit in difference between raising and calling because it's just so strong.
so I don't know what villain would call a raise with. Definitely a queen of some sort. So it's not like.
All right. So think about your raising range in total. So what kinds of hands would you raise here with a bluff?
Yeah, no clue. I feel like you might want more equity, and that's why I thought King Jack and Ace four don't make sense.
So there's
But-
a lot of straight draws. So
Yeah.
So you can list some of them. You got 9-8,
feel like you
10-8,
might want to use
10-9,
10-9, right?
8-5, 8-4, 9-5, 5-4, 5-3, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So lots of straight draws that can raise. And just thinking about the ranks that those fill up, it fills up the span of this board, which is basically between 10 and 3. Right. So you've got a lot of coverage on those river cards between 10 and 3 to make pairs. Okay. So what else do you need in order for coverage in your raising range?
Wait, say that again.
So the other bluffs that you have, the gut shots and the straight draws,
Yeah.
gut shots and the open enders, they cover the span of this board. So the span of this board is all the ranks between 10 and 3.
Right.
So you got 10-9, 10-8, 9-8, right? It covers between 10 and 8. You've got like 8-5, 8-4, 5-4, 5-3, right? So it covers all the way down to from between 10 and 3. So you've got a lot of pair coverage on those rivers in your raising range. And so you need something else to fill that in, fill the remainder in. So you need something to fill the jack in, you need something to fill the king in.
Yeah, so King Jack makes sense as a raise.
King Jack.
I thought you might not want it because it blocks the blackdoor flush, but I don't think that's that important.
Yeah, that's not very relevant. Yeah.
Okay.
So then King Jack is the raise for that reason.
So then the ace four is a call or fold, obviously. Just because it's got some showdown value to that size. And right, yeah. Right.
So we're going to have a look here. So the donking, 36.5%. Different sims, but we'll go with it.
That's a huge donking range.
The donking ranges can get pretty high when there's a lot of range asymmetry. Yeah, so the weaker sevens with a flush draw, much more likely to just call. The stronger sevens more likely to raise. A7 is good to call here and then check raise the river. It's definitely strong enough to do that, while the other sevens not quite as much, not at least against big bets. In terms of the bluffs, so let's look at this, right? In terms of the bluffs, so there's a little bit of ace high that can go into there, and so you need some king high and jack and Jack X. Basically, you need some King X and Jack X in that range, just so you get some more coverage on those ranks, right? For pairs. Okay, and that's why King Jack makes for a pretty good bluff if you have it.
Thomas,
Yep.
because I feel like it's going to come up a lot in like the next little bit. Following like achieving your 50% rule seems difficult. Or like
Second.
not difficult, but like hard to
Yeah. So
achieving-
here, when you check the opponent obeys 50% rule, so you need to
Yep,
have
okay.
quite an extensive checking range here after you've donked.
Yep.
And you'll see that's the case the majority of the time. And even in single raise pots between like the small blind and the big blind, after the small blind bets, there's a lot more checking. Like, there's a lot of checking. There's not as much continuing, and those checks often have a good bit of raising depending on the size of the bet.
My main question was what's the turn continue range then? What does the sizes look like? What everything look like?
There you got quarter pot, half pot, so a bit of everything, mostly pot there. And you just have to bet. So it just like I mean, like you bet small, you bet half potish, so it's smallish on the flop, and then you didn't get raised, and now you get a bit more polar on the turn. When you decide to bet, at least when you decide to bet a big size, and then the small size sort of just acts as half of a block, bit of equity denial, that kind of stuff. All right, so that's that question. This one.
All right. So again, my initial thought is that King 4 is not in the range. Yeah, thanks for that background music. Okay. And the reason King 4 is not in the range, I just don't think it could donk the flop. Because it's got a gut shot, like the shitty end of the gut shot and the over. I think it can work better into the call range.
Yeah, that's fair. And what about the other hands?
Sorry, what do you mean?
I mean, the other hands, in terms of whether you think the other hands can donk.
So every other hand kind of has something that makes it fine for me to donk. Like the 7 deuce has the open ender, Queen 10 is the 2 overs, backdoor flush draw, 10-9 is the gut shot and 2 overs, 6-3 is the pair, and some backdoor straight outs. And just it feels like King 4 it kind of fits naturally into my check call range. The other option would have been
very good. Good explanation. All right. The other ones?
I don't really know enough about this, but like that's just sort of my intuition. Going forward, I like that at the same line. Okay. So one of them's a pure fold. So it's between, I think it has to be between 10-9 and 7 deuce for the fold.
Well, which one do you think is more the fold?
Is more the fold.
Yeah.
So the thing with 10-9 is that you've got you initially think I've got you know, 4 outs, but one of them's not clean, and that's fine. But then you also have the 2 overs, which is still something, like pretty significant even. So, um, like queen 10 is just too much equity to fold. And 6-3 is too strong.
I think the same with 10-9. I think it's too strong to fold with 2 overs as well.
Yeah, so 70s blocks the black flush. I can't think that that's that important, but like the only thing is, like you have an open ender, so I don't think it's hard to fold that to a quarter pot size bet.
Okay,
Yeah.
so which hands is Abdul is only gonna be bluffing with?
Be bluffing with?
Yeah.
Probably a lot of 2 overs.
Yep, and so those 2 overs are going to have what cards in them?
10, like 9, 10 through 9 through ace. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not 9, but 10 through ace.
Maybe not as much ace and a little less king, but definitely also tens and nines. So the effect of having the 2 overs is basically nullified by the fact that all of your opponent's bluffs have the same 2 overs and dominate you. So not only do you block your opponent's bluffs, when you do hit, you lose. So it's pretty, even though it's like the gut shot to the nut straight, it's not quite strong enough just to call. If you have certain blockers that you want to use in terms of the specific suits, then you can get behind raising it.
Okay.
But it's definitely not strong enough to call. Does that make sense to everybody? So 10 and 9 not so good because it blocks kind of bluffs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because like you might have just completely dominated overs, right?
Yeah.
And the 1-7's not enough. So
This is a more connected board, right? So that'll it's different to the board before. There's more straights on it. So I think I don't think we get away with just calling 6-3, even though it's a lower kicker. So I think that might be indifferent to raising and calling on this board.
you think 6-3 is a raise or call?
Yeah.
So
it benefits from some raising, right? So, or would that make it a pure raise?
okay, so explain why you think it plays well as a call and why you think it plays well as a raise.
It plays well as a raise because villain. Yeah.
No, I'm doing this for everyone, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay. So how many sixes do you want to raise? Do you want to raise all of them?
No, you don't want to raise all. You definitely need some in your checking range.
Okay. So which are the best ones to raise?
The stronger ones.
Yeah. So stronger kicker is a bit better. But what else makes the hand stronger?
Well, if you could have a boat, that'd be nice, obviously. But
back doors.
Yeah. So ignoring the boats, just the trips. So which kickers make the hand stronger?
6-7.
Yep. So the 7 kicker makes it stronger because
you have the straight.
You got a straight draw, right? And so what else? The 9 makes it a bit stronger.
Shot. Yeah. And you know, the big ones like ace king are kind of
dominated.
The 10 makes it stronger. Why? Why would the 10 make it stronger?
I don't think it does.
So when you hit your turn, what happens?
Oh, he hits a straight.
Oh,
With
okay.
your turns?
No, 1 sec. When we hit a 10. I mean, I get what you're getting at the villain. Some like 7-9's already there.
But it isn't that narrow. Like just one combo that you're.
I might be missing something. I don't see anything that happens when you hit your 10.
Yeah, no one. So what happens when the 7 comes?
When the 7 comes,
Yeah, he hits a straight away about.
You've
well,
got
7 is so strong because of that. That when you hit your 7, or when the 7 hits, like wow, he can just get wrecked with it, and he has 9s, like 9x, 910.
all right. So basically the stronger sixes, better if you have a straight draw, definitely. Better if you can outkick someone.
Yeah, I thought Ace or King would make them really strong because then you could like, just crush a better one, right? Or we're 6.
So what happens when you've got a hand that bluffs and you raise it?
They call more.
Yeah. So if you've got 10-6 or something.
Oh, you block his bluffs.
Yeah. So it's going to call more often.
Yeah.
All right. This is when you've got the 3 here. What does that mean?
You don't block his bluffs that much, so you can probably raise it.
No. So if he's got a 10, so if we got a 10, we block him from having a 10, and
Easy
a
block
10 in
more.
his range is going to be a bluff.
Okay. So if
so
we
if
don't,
we raise it, we block those
we
bluffs.
unblock
So,
his hands, he'll fold more. So we should call it.
so we block his folding range, and then he's going to be calling more. And so at 6-3, we block his, we unblock his folding range essentially.
Yeah. So we call. So we should call more because.
So if we unblock his folding range, he'll fold more.
Yeah. So we should call.
We've got 6-3, so we should call.
Yeah.
So this becomes a call.
So between these two, which one would you not want to just call? And my thinking is that you would not want to.
All right. So if you've got a 2,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
So if you have a 2, you unblock the fold range.
Great. So what does that mean?
We should raise.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's pretty, and so you can sort of you go through the same argument.
Yeah.
So even though it looks very wet, a lot of different hands, different equities, you still need to think about blockers going into the turn. Which hands do you block, right? How those blockers play against each other. So here you've got 7-2. You unblock the folding range, so raising will be more successful. Here 6-3. You block the folding range, so raising will be less successful in terms of you want to get called. You don't want to get called. All right. Let me show you the simple that quickly. So yeah, a good chunk of your raising range. So if we look at this specific hand, so this raising sort of range in terms of the trips, right? So the trips with the high kickers raise more often. 1, they're stronger. 2, they block the bluffs which fold. But in terms of like the bluffs, so here the open enders, so 7-3, 7-2 raised a lot, right? 4-3, 4-2 raised quite a bit. 10-7, Jack-7, they're just really strong they draw to the nuts. Yeah, same sort of thing can be said for gut shots. Gut shots they're just weaker, so if you want to continue with them, you do need some extra equity.
Wait,
oh,
it's our range again. Okay.
Yeah, so the gut shots, like you can make the argument for raising 7-2 because of an open ender. You can't make the same argument for raising 9-2 because it's just a gut shot. It's not very strong.
Yeah.
None of the flush draws fold. So yeah, flush draws for the extra equity, raising more often, and with the lower kicker. So you see here's the 9-3 suited a little bit more often than like queen 9. All right. So this one. So yeah, hero donks. So hero donks, hero C bets, and then gets raised.
Oh, interesting. Wow, this is interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Now, do we ever have a reason to donk ace 9 without a backdoor?
I think wouldn't surprise me if you could do it. The main thing I'm looking at is the turn for which one's not in the range. I think we should solve the not within range first. Yeah.
I'm not used to looking at donking and then betting so thin on the turn, so
Yeah, this is a tough one. Maybe ace 9 doesn't want to be betting the turn, but no certainty on that. Yeah. The not within range is really tough here. I think we need to solve it first in order to be able to help us out with the other ones.
would ace 9 block some of his draws on the turn as well? Like, wouldn't they have a lot of 8, 9, 7, 9 in there?
Sorry?
Ace 9 block some of his draws, his folding range on the turn?
What do you think his folding range on the turn is? Then that you're worried about.
Things that were floating, like 9, 8, 9, 9, 10. Things like that.
9-10, 1-9-10.
Because it can hit a gut shot.
9-10.
On the flop, they might float on the flop, and then they've missed the chance to hit the back doors, so they might be folding some 9x.
That's so he's going to be calling really wide on the flop.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can be too like that. That's really specific.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
Like,
so the easiest one you can probably guess is this one. So
yeah, 9. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Now what?
So 8's is razor call.
Why do you think that?
So here was the thing. Like you need to, if you want or like you want to make sure.
What's villain representing when he raises you here?
He has an 8.
So why would eights raise?
Yeah, I was thinking like you just want to make sure it doesn't have 8-9. It blocks 8-9. So
which is more important?
the 9.
So
Yeah.
like when you're bluff raising, what do you want to do?
You want to like I mean it makes no sense to bluff with like such a strong hand. So I think 8's is just the call.
No. So answer my question. So when you're raising as a bluff, so here say you want to raise all in as a bluff,
Yeah.
what's the aim? So
To
what
get
are you representing? So you're representing exactly 9-8
Yeah.
for value.
Yeah.
And what are you trying to do when you bluff? You're trying to get him to fold what hand?
an 8.
An 8. So you're trying to get him to fold an 8. So here when you do this with 8s,
Yeah, he has. Yeah, you blocking.
you're blocking his folds.
Yeah. No. What?
Of course, you're blocking his value just as much. But like,
Yeah.
so ace doesn't really do very much. So if you wanted to another hand to do it with, what would that be?
Ace 9.
Yeah, so maybe ace 9.
But there's no point. But yeah, 8s should probably just be a pure call.
All right. So, what's a good thing about 8s? So it double blocks an 8.
Yeah.
Okay. So if say instead hero checked and villain bets, what does the EV of 8s become?
If we checked and he bet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we double block 8s, huh?
Okay. So when you've got 9-8, are you going to be more likely to bet it or check it?
You have 9-8.
When you've got 9-8.
I feel like 9-8 might go for a smaller size bet, hope to get raised and then jam on it and get called by an 8.
So that's what's happening. That's what's happening here.
Smaller size bet.
Yep. So I'll give you as a hint. So this is the only bet size that hero would use.
Wow. Okay.
So the aim of this bet is basically to make the chops indifferent.
Ah, cool.
Okay, when you've got a value hand.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to bluff quite frequently when you've got, in order to get the good bluff to value ratio. So let's get out the math and figure out what our bluff to value ratio is. So we're betting pot.
Yeah.
So our bluffs have 50% equity. Okay, so how do we make our opponent indifferent to calling? So they need to have what pot odds when we bet pot?
They need 2 to 1.
Yeah, so Omega is going to be what? So it's 1/3.
Okay.
So
yeah,
the equity needs to be a 1/3.
yeah.
Okay.
But they chop most. Yeah, I was wondering how chopping makes the difference here. So they need 1/3 to call, but they only get half the pot when they win, or when they call.
Yeah. So we're just talking about the equity against Hero's range. All right. So this is the pot odds. Okay. And so we want this to be equal to the equity Q. Okay. So the pot odds is, and then we want it to be equal to the equity. Okay. And so if we've got a strong hand, right? So the nuts, okay, against the nuts, they're going to have 0% equity, and against our bluff, they're going to have our value, right? They're going to have 0, and then against our bluffs, they're going to have a half.
Yep.
Okay, so then if this number V is the frequency of our value and B is the frequency of our bluffs, so we know that V plus B is equal to 1, so because our entire range is 1. Slightly ignoring the blocker effects that we have. Of course, here in this situation, there isn't going to be too many blocker effects, but there is some. So ignoring the blocker effects for now. So Q is equal to 1/3, and we want V plus B to end up being 1/3. So V times 0 plus B times a half equals Q.
Yeah.
Right. So V is the frequency of the thing. And V is 1 minus B, so that doesn't really matter. Anything times 0 is 0. So B times a half equals 1/3. So B is equal to 2/3. So bluffing frequency here is going to be 2/3.
We bluff
which yeah, you bluff 2/3 of the time, which makes sense, right? Because if you want opponent's equity to be 1/3 and they win half the pot, we need to bluff 2/3.
Yep.
So it all makes sense to everybody. Here, our bluff to value ratio is our bluffing frequency is 2/3, so our bluff to value ratio is 2 to 1. So we bluff twice as often as we have value.
Yep.
Okay, great. And now, if our opponent was to raise us, which hands is our opponent trying to make indifferent?
Our bluffs.
Yeah, because that makes up the bulk of our range.
Yeah.
Which is difficult to sort of wrap your head around, isn't it?
Are your single eights call? Does it mean that all the eights will call?
Sorry?
Does it mean?
Yeah. So if when our opponent raises us, they're actually trying to make the chops indifferent to calling. Okay, at that stage, and so all of our 8x will call. Well, some of it might raise as a bluff, but it is going to call.
So then it boils down to like if you have King 9 or Ace 9, which one do you keep as a call?
Okay, so whichever way you look at it, so whether we check and our opponent bets, they're trying to make the chops indifferent, and when we raise, we're trying to make their chops indifferent. And it does get a bit weird because of the presence of the nuts and how they block each other.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can very easily fold an 8 ever here.
So just to make something clear, so the 9s, they're all in because they block 8-9. Is that it? It's like 8-9 suited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when choosing between ace-9 and like 8-2, so I guess ace-9, it blocks just one suited ace-9. I mean 8-9 suited.
We has 8-9 off too, I think.
And 2 blocks more 8s.
I mean, I really want to know what's not in the range here. I think that will simplify it for us.
Okay, so ace is not within range because ace is going to check here.
Oh, to check raise?
Because it makes such a good it just makes such a good call. Because it double blocks all the value, and so.
So you just want him to bluff then?
Yeah, so you check with the intention of
raising,
of calling off the chop.
Oh,
You don't raise because
there's so much bluff going on that you can check that.
Well, actually, I mean, yeah, you check it to continue to bluff catch, and the bluff catching might be by raising.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so the trick to know is that there's a lot of bluffing going on when there is betting here, when there's any sort of betting here.
So that falls like in the category of like when you hit your set of ace on the flop. Same type of deal.
Okay. I'm gonna go on a limit.
Yeah, same type of deal. Checking to trying to make your opponent bluff into you, and then you raise.
Ace-9 is the color fold.
Yeah, why do you think that?
It's a bluff catcher.
Yeah.
Yep, pure bluff catcher here. The other like chops aren't as good because ace-9 specifically blocks 9-8, which your opponent is always going to raise for value. So that's why it's a good call of fold. And the same sort of thing can be said with most of your 9x. Those hands make better calls than the remainder of the chops.
So I have no way to discern between 8-6 and 8 deuce. Like, to be honest, I'd probably in game I'd probably just call both of them all the time. Like, I wouldn't ever raise, but maybe so. Like maybe like he can't ever have 8 deuce because he wouldn't open it, I think. Right. He would never open 8 deuce suited or 8 deuce. This is like really, really tiny. So he would never open it, so he can't have it. So the deuce is a relevant blocker, but he can have 8-6 suited, which is a hand he could have. So if we block him from having 8-6 suited, we could raise it because we block some more of his 8s. Like, that's all I got.
All right, so if we're trying to bluff him off an 8 by raising all in, do we want him to have an 8?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
So which hand is a raise?
We're trying to bluff him off an 8.
Yeah. So that's the intention here when we raise all in
Yeah.
as a bluff.
Then we want him to have an 8 that we could bluff off, and he can't.
Yeah.
And so 8-6 blocks him from having an 8, kind of twice,
Yeah.
but basically once. So 8-6 is just to call 8 deuces the raise,
Yeah,
because he can't have
Yeah.
8 deuce suited, right? Because you didn't open it.
because of the suit here, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is that having a 2 doesn't block him from any of the hands that he would fold, right? Any of the other chops that he would fold, but like hands that he's bluff raising as a chop to try and raise you off with a chop. Yeah, so it's a very interesting hand to wrap your head around, and sort of reveals the way that you should be playing. So here, this is what it looks like. Obviously, if there were more bet sizes, you might get a better picture of what's going on. But against this pot size bet, sorry,
you put all those bet sizes in, and only one came out, right?
Yeah. So against this pot size bet, basically you play raise or fold. Yeah. There's a little bit of calling, but basically it's raise or fold, and the same sort of thing here. Right, you got to think about how you make yourself or your opponent indifferent, and in order to make a trying to bluff someone off a chop indifferent, either that chop is going to basically run into a raise or get you to fold. Right, there's no real need to have a calling range. You don't have to call for a chop. In this specific scenario, when there's a possible re-raise.
And did like 8-6 also block like 9-6 suited for him?
Yeah, but 9-6 suited isn't super relevant.
Yeah.
I don't think. So here 8's always checks, because when we check and then our opponent's basically on a blast off, and we play raise or fold against that. Obviously, there was different bet sizes, then there might be more of a calling range, but here the opponent isn't betting quite often enough. So if you look at this, sort of the ratio between here and here is not quite high enough to have any calling.
Wait, so would we have
and
eights?
so this is with pocket 8s. You double block the value of your opponent's range, and so your opponent is more likely to be bluffing you when they bet. All right, and then when you raise, you can get called by some of those weaker hands. All right, and same sort of thing here. Bet, raise. This is a half pot raise. So if we think about going back to this math here, if this is if the raise is a half pot, then omega is 1/4, and so B is going to be a half, right? Because we're trying to bluff them off a chop.
Yep.
And so we can look at the bluff to value ratio. Look, that's basically a half essentially.
Wow.
50% value and then 50% bluffs. Right, same sort of thing here. Re-raise 50-50 for that bet size. And there you go, ending the game. You've got some calls. Right. So basically in the situation like this, when there's the chop, a hand stronger than a chop, and then the absolute nuts, you get this weird scenario where you don't have to have any calls against the first bet. But of course, against the raise, you do have to have some calls. Okay.
Interesting.
But against the raise, all the strong hands are all the second nuts is just going to snap off, and then the chops that want to bluff catch are all 9x, right? Blocking the absolute nuts. So like ace 9, it blocks 9-8, it still loses to an 8, but it chops with the rest of it. And so that's how it ends up getting close to the optimal amount of equity to call. Yeah, was that call or fold? What did I do? Yeah, I think with the wrong combo of ace 9, but you get the picture. What else? Yeah, so what you said about 8-6 and ace 2 is correct. So here, if we look here, 8-6 offsuit, ace 6 suited, that doesn't apply. It doesn't make any difference because you don't block any 8-6. But 8-6 offsuit, you do block some 8-6. Yeah, so hopefully, do you guys have any questions about that? Hopefully you guys learned something.
Yeah. Oh, the no calling range for the in position player is like really not
Yeah,
acceptable.
and the bluff to value ratio you want to use and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. But when you get into a scenario like this, you need like a lot of bluffs in order to be bluffing enough. But that really only applies when there's the chop and then the hand stronger than it and then the nuts. So that sort of situation is when you have the no calling.
So basically just a straight on board.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully now when a straight comes on board, you know how to play it.
Yeah, it happens like 1% of the time, but it's useful to know, right? Okay. Oh, we don't donk, huh?
So you don't hear.
Okay, I'm just reading the hand. 3. Well, wait, I'm a little confused by the opening. Just villain of the big blind calls, right?
Yeah, so here we're in the small blind now. We're open to 3.
Yeah.
So villains in the big blind they call.
There's no third villain, right? That I'm thinking about.
Yeah. I think it's a typo. That shouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think the previous ones were like that too.
Yeah, typos.
It's fine.
Big blind calls.
Wow. So villain is definitely repping a queen here. So that leads me to think that the ace king might have to be a fold. But So I can definitely see eights donking here. Because when the queen pairs, it's less likely for him to have a queen. That makes sense to anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't know. Yeah,
Value of numbers increase.
All right. And let's continue. 10-6 is, man, maybe like ace king just doesn't make sense as a donk. Ace king can probably just comfortably check call. right?
I guess it's what do you want to have when against his bluffs?
What do you want to have against the bluffs?
Yeah. What's going to be his bluffs here?
I think eights is a pretty nice hand to have against his bluffs. But like, what would not donk the turn, right? So I think eights easily donks the turn. I'm not sure if 10-6 donks the turn.
Well, 10-6 can donk if we're going to have a value range, right?
Sorry.
Doesn't 10-6 get to donk if we have a value range to donk on the turn? So if we're going to donk,
We have a value range.
probably, yeah, we can probably donk it. I would have thought.
We can dunk 10-6.
I would have thought so.
So ace king is not within the range.
That's what I'm thinking. I just can't see why ace king donks.
Yeah, that's why I thought ace king made a nice check call.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of weird. Like the line is weird. Check call.
Not that weird.
I don't know.
Definitely not that weird.
Check call, then donk. Like we didn't raise it, and then I mean, weird as in like maybe like a less common line.
Sure.
All right. So which hand are we thinking not within range?
We
Most likely.
ace king.
So the only top was ace king. All right. Very good. Yeah, ace king kind of just wants to get to showdown here.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Strongest ace high. Not much else to say about that. What do you think about the other two hands? So which hand's going to fold? Which hand's going to call?
So, like the initial
All right. So an easy question you can ask yourself is against this raise, do I want to continue with all my flush draws?
I don't think so.
All right. So the answer is no. Then which flush draws do you want to fold?
To be honest, the shitty ones and the ones without anything else.
Yeah. So 10-6 makes that.
Fold.
All right. So that's leaning much more towards a fold. And the eights.
Yeah, it's a great bluff catcher.
Pretty good bluff catcher, despite the fact that it blocks the 8 of spades. Not quite as important because there's 2 possible flush draws, but even if that's the case, when an 8 does come, you kind of want that to be the 8 of clubs because then they make a flush and they're going to bet into you. So,
yeah.
While having the blocker means that you have slightly less equity into your opponent's range because they're you block some of the bluffs. When you do hit your boat, some of those bluffs are going to come in.
And the 10-6 blocks 5-6. Does all of his 5-6 bet here?
So we can have a look. So this is what the range looks like. So quite a bit of donking. We've got 62-ish% equity with our range here, even though we're capped. will become a lot less capped when the trips comes. We've got 12% trips in total versus him only having 7.33% trips. We've got less houses though, which is why Link can raise like this. And so there's the raising range for value, mostly trips and then houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then against that, these pocket pairs that beat pocket sevens and pocket fours, they're all very, very nice to call, because if your opponent's got eights, if your opponent's got sevens and you've got eights and the eights hits, you stack an extra house. Compared to sixes and fives, you get stacked. So slight thing there, but it does make quite a big difference in terms of the expectation.
So why are we capped?
Yeah, no, you're. What do you mean? Why are you capped? You're not particularly capped. When your opponent when your opponent bets the flop after we check and we only call, we've got much fewer sets and much fewer. Well, we basically don't have that many sets at all. So most of myself, sevens and fours would have raised, and most of our queens would have raised. So going into the turn, we have when the board pairs like queen, we've got much fewer full houses than our opponent.
Yep.
But on the other hand, we've got more trips. We've got more queen X.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So because of that, we can lead because we've got a lot of trips. The equity of our entire range went up, or our opponent's draws essentially missed. So we're going to develop a leading range here to try and get some of those draws out of the way. Generate equity from those draws, get some value from those draws when we've got some strong hands or stronger hands. So some trips, some 7x, other pairs. They can all lead here. And then our opponent, when they've got houses and strong trips, they're going to raise for value against a leading range. And when we check, opponent's going to have a variety of bet sizes they can use. But that's sort of the main thing. And then against this raise, in terms of the flush draws, you want to be quite selective with which flush draws you continue with. On a paired board, it's not amazing to continue with the flush draws because they don't draw quite anywhere near as strongly. So you can consider folding them. If the board wasn't paired, then I'd have a hard time folding a flush draw. But because the board is paired, then folding a flush draw is much more reasonable. And out of the flush draws that you choose to fold the weaker ones. That's pretty straightforward, I think. What else is there? Oh yeah, ace king. Ace king just doesn't make any sense to bet.
Yeah, good. Okay.
All right, this one.
So the flop over bet is interesting. Wow, and then we dunk it. Yeah. So knowing what. I'm going to say that I don't think king 5 donks the turn.
Why is that?
So, well, basically compared to the other ones. So 10-8 makes quite a bit of sense to donk because so I was looking at like what would call the flop and thinking the like imagine he has just straight like so normally when you see overbets on the flop, it's a lot of overpairs or two overcards with backdoor flush or something like that, and but this isn't quite the normal board I was thinking of, like, because 10-5-4, like we could have 2 pair and stuff on it. But if you want to be like, how do you continue against it? You're going to want to be able to continue against stuff that can beat, say, a 10 or beat pocket jacks or something, or get out. So King 5 made sense, Ace 3 made sense, and 10-8 made sense because King 5 you can hit your king, or a 5 you've got 5 outs. Ace 3 has the deuce and the ace, and then 10-8 has an 8, a 10, and a backdoor flush, backdoor straight. So then on the turn, like 10-8's like a nice hand to bet for value. Ace 3 makes a lot of sense because got the deuce, the 6, and the ace, and then King 5 just blocks the backdoor flush draw, blocks the flush draw that he might call with. We don't have it ourselves. Yeah. Basically, we block his backdoor flush draw, but block his flush draws from calling, and tough to like. I just don't see it as a value bet or a bluff. Basically, the King 5.
Yeah, that's good. So here on this turn, the reason behind having a donking range is very similar to the previous situation, right? So here, villain on the flop, they're going to have a lot of bluffs, but those bluffs don't hit the 7 very hard, right? All the bluffs are going to be definitely lots of overcards, right? Of course, they do have some straights, but not straight draws, but not very much because of preflop. On the other hand, hero's going to have the same number of straight draws essentially continuing against this bet. So the density of the straight draws is going to be roughly the same for both players, but without the overcards. So here on the turn, hero's equity goes up by quite a lot because all the bluffs missed, and villain's got a lot of bluffs. So here hero's got some strong hands, but hero doesn't have quite as many nuts because hero didn't raise the flop. So some of those hands that want to bet, probably some pairs, obviously backed up by the presence of straights and 2 pairs that hero can have. And so hero is going to get more folds than alpha against his bet because the bottom of hero's range after calling the other bet on the flop is quite strong. And so it's got quite a high checking EV. Right, so here, so villain has to give back that EV by overfolding against this bet, right? And so the bottom of villain's range, some 1 overcard type hands, very junky stuff, just gets let go. But even King Queen, I don't think makes too much sense as a call against his bet, just because hero's bluffs, like what's hero's weakest bluff? It's difficult to see hero's weakest bluff might be like King Queen, Queen Jack type stuff. All right, and so going into the river, King 5 doesn't make any sense because King 5 doesn't really benefit too much from betting here.
Yep.
And now out of these two, you have to decide which one, whether you want to bet or check.
What size would we be betting? Is a good question. So I'm pretty sure that Ace 3 has like almost no showdown value. Maybe it beats like King Jack, he's going to bluff that. So ace 3 has no showdown value, I think. Right? Like, I don't see any showdown value for it. Anything that we beat, he's going to bluff.
Yeah, we block his check back range quite heavily.
That being said,
All right, so yeah, that's good. So think, what's the bottom of Hero's range? Like,
Bottom
what's
of our
the
range?
weakest hand in Hero's range? And how many combos is that? Like, how much is it?
we're pretty much there, right? Like ace 3 is like pretty bad. Just because
Yeah.
when he takes his line, he overbets the flop, and we call, and we donk turn. Like, man, we not doing that with like, I don't know. We're not doing that with 8-9, right? Or King Jack. There's none of that stuff, right?
Yeah, 8-9 is difficult to call a flop.
Yeah.
Might raise it.
Yeah. King Jack, like maybe.
Of course, it probably does have to at some frequency. Yeah, King Jack slightly weaker, but the question when you think about the bottom of your range, it's difficult to think of hands weaker than this. And so when you want to have some bluffs, you want to pick hands from your bottom of your range, which is fair.
Yeah.
So if it's difficult to have much weaker than this, it does make sense to bluff this.
Yeah. I'm just looking at blockers.
In addition, having the blocker with the 3 of clubs is nice because you block some of the flushes, which certainly can get here like this. From the villain's point of view, you can have a backdoor flush draw with like a 3 against a turn donk, just flat it and then hit the flush. So you want to block that. So ace 3 makes for a very good bet. So why do you think 10-8 makes for a good check?
It's a good check call if you bet's big, and you can probably raise it if you bet small.
Yeah. So it's a good check call because it's a strong hand, but besides the fact that it's a strong hand, why is it good as a check? I mean, if it's a strong hand, why don't we just bet it for value ourselves?
Mm.
What makes it better as a check?
We weight his range to hands that need to bet as a bluff. We block the value.
All right. So what hands is villain gonna check back when we check?
Hands with a little bit of showdown value, so like a lot of ace X and
All right. So ace X, and what's stronger than that? Some pairs. Which pairs?
yeah.
Like a 4, a 5, a 7. Do you think villain's gonna be betting too many of their 10s?
No.
No. Okay. So if we have
It'll be at least
10-8,
a half
which is
pot bet, right?
sorry.
It's going to be at least a half pot bet if he bets. So I don't think he'll bet too many tens on that run out.
Yeah, so villain is not going to be betting too many of their 10s after overbetting the flop and then facing the donk on the turn, and then having this particular flush completing overcard come. So because of that, when we've got 10-8, which is a strong hand, we want to block our opponent's checkbacks. And having the 10 of clubs is good for that because some of our opponents' 10x hands have the 10 of clubs in it.
Right.
So we block
okay, yeah.
some 10x. Does that make sense to everybody? Figure this out for this is what the checking range look like here. So 10-8. Right, out of all of our flushes, basically all the ones with a 10 will check. or with a 5 will also check. So that's how the flushes are played. Ace 3 quite close to the bottom of our range, and King 5 checks here. All right, this one.
You bet pot. Okay. Man. Got no clue. I don't think ace 4 dunks the turn. Is anyone on board with me that ace 4?
Yeah, that was my immediate thought.
Doesn't dunk the turn? Like, not within range.
Yeah. I think I can't quite figure out why 10-10 donks turn now. Other than it does pick up a gut shot, but
yeah, because it's so like the problem with ace 4 is that it's like pair of aces, no kicker. It feels like one of those like the like why are you betting? Oh, I'm just betting.
So both tens and ace 4 have a gut shot on the turn.
Yeah, that's true.
But the ace falls to the bad end, right? So
it doesn't really matter.
Because it's a free bet pot.
Well, he has some nines, but it's not like it's not like you hit your gut shot with the 4 and you're like, I'm ready to fold. So I think the ace 4. Maybe tens doesn't make sense as the donk.
No, I can't get my head around either of them. But ace 4 looks like more of a stable showdown.
I'm terrible at the period, let alone trying to do these. Right.
All right, so if you guys have difficulty with donking, so just pretend you bet the previous street. Like donking isn't too much different to it.
Yeah. Okay.
If we bet the previous street, we have to do a fair bit of checking on this turn.
Mm-hmm. So 7.
Obviously, pretend you bet the previous street with the range that you came into the street with. It doesn't make any sense, but like just get the idea of that donking is different to any other part of the game tree out of your head.
Yeah.
The only reason why on some on some run out you don't donk is because of the 50% rule.
Yep.
Okay, so 50% rule is what you should be obeying all the time, or the majority of the time, rather than the idea that you shouldn't be donking. More of the 50% rule rather than about we're a donk.
So are we donking 10-10?
So here, if you look at Hero's range, which of these hands makes sense to bet half pot? For value and for bluffs or whatever.
Makes quite a bit of sense.
Yep, so you probably want to bet that. Can you get some value with ace 4?
Yeah.
Can you get some value with tens?
Tough.
That's really difficult.
Yeah, much more difficult. All right, so tens is not within range here.
Okay.
It's unfortunate. We would have loved to have tens on this river. Uh,
All right. So what's the bottom of your range?
This ace is very near the bottom of our range.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
you might
pick-
have some other stuff like 6-5, 6-4.
6-5 is pretty good.
I mean, yeah. I mean 6-4 definitely. Pocket fours that you bluffed on the turn. What else could you have? Like some 9x.
Some 9x, some 5. I don't know. Some 9x and ace 4. Like eight, I feel like ace 4 is such a weak ace that it's near the bottom. Like on this run out, it's hard for him to have, and this line, it's hard for him to have much worse than one pair. Especially if he
Yeah.
like as the three
And
better.
so, and in terms of your value range, you got plenty of straights here and plenty of
Yeah,
flushes
I thought
here.
7-6 was a nice bluff catcher.
So for that reason, yeah, ace four, very close to the bottom of the range, works reasonably well as a bluff.
So we're betting
No,
ace
there
four
is
as a bluff.
7-6 as the check. 7-6 is a bit higher up in the range and can check it up to win it showdown.
I would never have picked ace four out as a bluff.
And then, yeah, I mean 7-6, you have to sort of think about bluff catching then. So like if the stronger top pairs make the bottom of your range, you can definitely have to think about bluff catching the 7-6. At least some of the time when you face a shove. So yeah, ace four turn to bluff. Right. So in all these runouts, you got to think where's the bottom of the range. You have to find bluff somewhere. Right. Otherwise, you're going to drastically under bluff in spots like this. Right. Not realizing that your opponent is going to be like massively overfolding because they know they're under bluffing. So you can exploit them by like turning all your pairs into a bluff. Very scary run out. All right. So yeah, this one is a button big blind spot. I don't know why I've got this typo in the entire time, but basically button big blind spot.
Wait, we're the small blind here? I'm confused. Oh, okay, we're the big blind. Okay. Oh. What a run out. Not a big fan of ace deuce right here.
Yeah.
Anyone on board with that?
Yeah, I think everything else has got a reason to consider donking the turn over the next deuce.
Yeah. Ace deuce not within range. You have the gut shot, but man. Blocking the flush is like not good.
I mean, it all seems risky once the board pairs to be betting like 10-9, but yeah.
Oh no, 10-9 super strong.
Right, okay.
10-9, yeah, like 10-9 is really strong.
I play these spots are very wrong, man.
Sorry?
I play these spots are very wrong.
Like let's say you checked and villain bet, would you fold 10-9?
No.
Good.
I won't fold it, but I don't think I'd ever consider donking it.
Well, I think that's a lot of us. I think we just don't donk very much, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like 10-9 is really strong. So don't worry about that. Like lose too much. Yeah, I mean, I just can't see us using ace deuce here with just the gut shot to lead out. Like I never like if the flush complete.
So if you want to have some ace x to, so do you want to have some ace x to lead on the turn?
It'd be like ace jack.
Why ace jack?
No. Hard. Oh man.
So when you're leading an ace, do you want your opponent to call or fold?
Fold.
Yeah, you don't want your opponent to fold, right? You want your opponent to have the bottom of the range and then fold. So you're more of a bluff you're doing it for, right? So you want some ace x, and which ace x do you want to use?
You wouldn't want the spade because you'd want him to call with the spade.
When the spade comes, what happens?
Opportunity ball.
If you have the spade, is it more likely is it more likely to call or fold?
Oh, they're more likely to call with a spade, so we block it, so it's good.
In that case, queen 10 makes less sense to donk since it's a good check call.
Yes, out of all these hands, the best check call is queen 10 by far.
Yeah.
Similarly, ace jack is pretty good hand to check. So like just the weak pairs is so the pairs with draw strength makes sense in the checking range, check calling range, because one, you want some showdown value, and two, you want to be able to at least chop when the draw gets in.
I think 10-9 is a check.
Why do you think that?
Might be a check. It might be a check call. Oh wait, queen. We have queen 4. Might want to. Oh. So the important thing with queen 4 is that it blocks the. Like we have the flush, but we also block the pairs, and hence the boats.
Which is more important?
Sorry?
Which is more important, having the flush?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this ball shouldn't be here, but let's say it's queen 5.
Okay.
Just typo, queen 5.
Sorry. What was the question?
So with the queen 5 of spades, so the queen 4, that's just a typo. Which is more important, having the flush and wanting to bet the flush, or having the queen and wanting to block your opponent's queens?
Oh, it's way more important to just have the flush.
In terms of the decision to bet or check?
Yeah.
So you're saying that your queen flop will always bet?
I'm trying to think of like. Queen 4.
All right. Do you want some flushes in your checking range?
Do I want flushes in some? But
so which ones make for the best flush checks?
So he would probably. I'm trying to think what he would do with the queen of spades and nothing. So
if he's got the queen of spades, what's he gonna do?
Yep. Give me a sec.
Like if he's got queen 10 of spades, queen of spades 8, that kind of stuff.
You check back.
Yep. So if you got the queen X flush, what does that mean?
Oh, so if he he has the queen of spades. He's going to check. So we block the checking range. So we can
Yeah.
check it.
So what does that mean? Yeah, we check. So we get bet into more often. And having some flushes in there is pretty good. Because you can go for a check raise.
Yeah. Oh, that was my initial thought, like to check raise it. Okay, and then I thought ace deuce just had to be the bet.
Yeah, I mean, once you get here like this, it doesn't make sense not to bet it. You blocking the nuts. Sorry, the nut flush.
Yeah, and then,
And then
10-9.
the 10-9 is can go either way. All right, so let's have a look at that quickly. So here, this is on the turn, a decision to bet. So 41% betting frequency, you get 60% equity. It's really good. So basically all of our opponents' bluffs missed. The fact that some of the opponent's value disappeared, and some of our strong hands increased in strength. So all good things, right? As in, like pocket kings is no longer a big thing to worry about. King queen is less of a worry. King jack less of a worry, just because the extra king came. So betting is pretty good. Of course, when an opponent does have those strong hands, they want to raise quite a large size. Anyway, so the flush comes. Basically, out of all our flushes, the flushes with the queen are more likely to check than the other ones. Of course, there is a slight checking frequency with the other flushes that we've got, but more with the queen because of the effect of blocking our opponent's offsuit queens, which would check back. And what else was there? So ace two, yeah, I mean, if we get here with ace two, we're basically always betting when we have the nut flush blocker. And then 10-9 go either way. It's a strong hand, but it's not super strong because of the presence of both flushes and houses. Makes for a decent enough check call. Okay, so this one.
Damn. Okay. Let's think about king jack. King jack, I suppose, could call the flop instead of raising. Yeah, I suppose. King jack is I think king jack is not in the range. I think we would check the turn with it. Like check raising the turn is probably nice.
Why king jack and not any of the other kings?
So my initial thought was like king jack, like a king just needs to raise at some point before this for value. And I think ideally, I think most of the time
So
it's probably
heroes dunked on the turn. So
yeah. I mean, I thought he would be raising flop a lot, King Jack.
yeah, so you can raise a flop quite frequently, but
Yeah, but
not all the
he
time.
it can call, it can just call if it wants, and then I think that
And
instead
then
of
and then raise the turn. Yeah. So
yeah,
but when this the third king comes,
yeah.
that makes heroes range quite a bit stronger. Heroes calling range quite a bit stronger now.
Wait, sorry, say that again.
When the third king comes on the turn, heroes calling range on the flop has become quite a bit stronger. So heroes range overall on this particular turn card is
Why?
quite strong, and that's why you develop a leading range.
Why
You've
do
got
we get stronger?
a reduction in the number of kings in both players' ranges.
Why is it that our range gets stronger with the king on the turn? Because is it because villains gets weaker because he can have less king X now?
Yeah, so both players can't have as many king X. From the flop, villains got more bluffs because hero would have either raised a bluff or folded if it's weak, and so hero's got to have far more like pairs, specifically 7x, a lot more 7x than villain. And so that 7x is definitely strong enough to protect the checking range. And so when you've got the very strongest hands, you're going to want to bet them.
All right. Then the other one I didn't quite get was ace deuce. Ace nine, at least you have the flush draw and the slightly stronger like pair outs of the nine and the ace, and ace deuce doesn't have that. Like let's say the villain has pocket fives or something, right? Like the deuce is just weak. So ace nine.
Yeah, so ace2 doesn't make too much sense to donk the turn here.
Yeah.
So the ace-x is like slam dunk in the middle of hero's range on the turn. So when hero wants to develop the donking range, you're going to want to choose some stronger hands, and then some weaker hands as a bluff. In terms of the ace-x, they either want to be a little bit stronger, so the pairs become decent draws against the 7, or have a flush draw. So ace-2 doesn't make any sense because the second kicker, the 2 can't beat a 7. In fact, can't beat any of villain's pairs. So it doesn't make anywhere near as good as a bluff. Compared to a hand like ace-10, where the 10 can beat a 7 if the 10 pairs, but the 10 can also be pocket 9s, pocket 8s.
So okay, now like discerning between the hands. So king jack unfortunately made a jack pair, also like blocks a jack or whatever you want to call it.
Yep, so king jack blocks a jack, so what does that mean?
That villain is less likely to have a jack. So if we checked, he would bet a jack. But
Yep. So we block the checking range. So we block the betting range when we
yeah,
check.
so
So what does that mean?
we should bet.
Yep. Pretty straightforward.
Like interestingly enough, sixes is actually stronger than ace nine here. But I really hope this isn't one of those weird scenarios where like we can somehow fold out better, but also get called by worse. Remember the last one that kind of blew me away, or a couple ones ago. But I think that like his calling range has a lot of ace high in it. So maybe ace nine is the bet and sixes is the check. Sorry, his calling range is a lot of ace high, so we don't want to block ace high. So sixes is the bet, and ace nine is the check.
Yeah, if you bet small enough, you can get value with sixes
Yeah.
against the ace high.
And sorry, what was the reason for betting king jack?
So I'll
So
explain it. Maybe.
you want to explain it? All right.
Yeah. Maybe it's worth it. So king jack blocks the jack, right?
Correct.
So if you block the jack, well, what would villain do with the jack? Bet, right?
Hmm.
You agree?
He would bet his jack, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So if you block his jack, and he would bet a jack, then he's more likely to check.
Mhm.
So you bet it yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you had like king 10, he could have a jack, right?
Yeah.
And if he have and so he would bet that, so you can go for the check raise, right?
Yeah. So you can check raise then, but here it's
But we
gonna
have the
check
jack.
back. Yeah. Hmm.
He's going to
Okay.
check back, so we have to bet it.
Yep. Yep.
Good?
Yep.
All right.
So I'll show you guys this. Yeah, so this is what the range is like on the turn. So the ace x basically is very close to the middle of the range, bottom of the range. In terms of thinking about things in terms of value and bluff, this is sort of the value, and this is sort of the mergy part. Because you're betting so small, you can get really mergy. And then this is towards the bluffs. Ace two doesn't make any sense either way. It's a little bit too strong to bluff. A little bit too weak to bet for value, and so yeah, not so great. King Jack, good assessment of King Jack. Blocks the bets, so just bet it yourself. Sixes, you can bet here. You can bet quarter pot for value. Sometimes, if the sim had a small bet size, sixes might even always bet. And then ace nine is a flush, but it loses to all pairs, so not so great. All right, this one.
Man, have we like
So
seen it?
we are small blind, big blind. Sorry,
Have we
say
seen
what
it?
again.
I swear we've seen this board before with this line.
You're getting deja vu, are you?
Sorry?
Getting deja vu.
Yeah. It was a different turn, but Queen seven deuce rainbow was a thing on small blind, big blind, three bet pot out of position. We donked the turn. All right. Can you call the turn raise with 8-7? Anyone?
I don't think.
All right. That's the case. We would need to fold the turn, 8-7. But um, Anyone like mm. I would not want to face most turns with 8-7 other than 8 or a 7. And the SPR is getting too small to warrant the call. So I think 8-7 is not in the range. And I think it's Queen 9 better. I think Queen 9 and 6s both want to bet an Ace Queen check. 8-7 not in range. I don't know. I'm getting a little tired, I think.
Okay, so which hands aren't in range? So you think 8-7? What about Ace Queen? So what happens on the flop?
Oh, we raised the flop with Ace Queen. At least some
So
of
you
the
always
time.
raise the flop with Ace Queen. So that's why Ace Queen's not within range.
I don't know how I didn't see that. Okay. So the call with 8-7 is risky on the turn, but I guess it's open for the 2 pair, the trips. And neither out are clean. Or like 2 outs aren't clean. Like I have trouble with the
Yeah, I
turn.
mean, so 8-7 in terms of the number of outs it has is just more than a lot of your other pairs. Like if you've got pocket 8s, pocket 9s. 8-7 is just doing better than that in terms of equity.
Yeah, but I feel like we have a lot of other stuff. Okay. Okay. Let's assume it does. 8-7 is definitely near the bottom of our range if we wanted to bet it. That's a bluff.
Very good.
Maybe
Oh, yeah, this is the always bet.
yeah, okay.
So it is you're pretty much bottom of range here. So here when the flush comes in, because basically all your flush draws call the turn raise. You just end up having way more flushes than your opponent.
Yep.
And so you just want to lead some of them.
So the thing with 6s, like he could be raising with a lot of sorry about that.
Hey guys, my name.
So 6s, how strong are 6s?
Sorry.
How strong are 6s here? So what was the purpose of calling 6s on the turn?
We were really hoping to hit it boat up, but it's still really strong.
Yeah, really. It was just to sort of, you're basically trapping, right?
Yeah.
Blocking your opponent's check backs, that sort of thing. Hoping your opponent has a queen, then bets into you on the river. So that was the purpose of calling. But now that the jack has come, because of the presence of flushes, your opponent is a lot less likely to bet a queen, at least not all of the queens.
I also thought he's like more likely to have a flush. He would raise with a lot of flush draws here, right?
No, because you can just jam on him, and then he has to call those flush draws.
Yeah, I thought 6s would have made a nice jam on the turn.
Yep, so 6s can jam sometimes, but otherwise it will trap.
Okay.
If villain raises too many flush draws, then their total raising range is not sufficiently polar.
Yep.
So then 6s
Right.
bets.
And because it's not polar enough, if you've got too many flush draws, you can just jam with like a queen. And the villain will have to call off those flush draws.
All right.
if you're not sure why that's the case, you should go back and do the previous quizzes on the river pots. There was a bit of discussion about which flush draws you want to bet
Yeah.
on the turn. So when the river comes, it's quite good for Hero's range because Hero's got all of those flush draws versus Villain doesn't. So Villain doesn't raise as many flush draws as Hero has bet.
Oh, yeah.
And Hero will call all of those flush draws against his bet. And so the flush competing Jack is very good for Hero's range. So Hero wants to develop a leading range here.
So I honestly thought you could bet both Queen 9 and 6s.
Yeah, you could. So which one's better to check?
Okay. So he might bluff with one club.
So we discussed the reason behind betting 6s here is because Villain's going to check back their Queen X.
Yeah.
More often.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to check back Queen X. So Queen 9 blocks the Queen X.
Yeah. So it makes for a pretty good check.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to bet this.
Oh, good. Okay.
So this is what this looks like here on the river. So basically all the Queen X checks, including the flush draws. Right. These sets, betting or checking. Flushes mostly leading. Right, and that's because of the presence. So here, in terms of the flush draws, like 8.1% flush draws, but got 16.1% flush draws. In Hero's betting range, more calling range here. And then after the folds, it ends up being like, 20% flushes versus 9% flushes. So twice as many flushes. Pretty good river card for Hero's range. Also removes a lot of the bottom of Hero's range. So the bottom of Hero's range suddenly becomes like the 8-7, which we talked about.
Okay. Okay, last one, right?
Yeah, last one.
Right.
So here's small blind, Villains, big blind raises.
Can you call the flop with King Queen?
So King Queen is the nut no pair. So
yeah,
gets all the bluffs. Has good draw equity against the value.
Yep. All right. It's clearly like what doesn't lead the turd. And I'm going with Jack 9 is just not strong enough to lead the turn.
Good.
What to do with all the nuts or all the strong hands? So King Queen doesn't block any of his like stuff he would bet for us. We could jam over the top. If you remember like or Max, if you remember there was a board where it was like, I'm gonna mess this up. It was 2 kings on it, an ace, and we had and a 5 on the river, and 5s is what we end up, or like I was arguing the whole time, like we check 5s so that we could jam on top, right? Max, you remember that?
Yeah, not sure.
It was so we had like ace king, king queen, or ace queen, like king, queen, and fives, and we needed to know what to do with them. And the board was like king, king, queen, five, or x5. Anyways, doesn't really matter. My point is king, queen doesn't exactly block a lot of the stuff that he would bet. Like, let's say he had ace anything, right? He's gonna bet.
Okay, so out of all these hands, which one blocks the checks?
Ace jack.
All right, so that's a pretty good reason to do what with it?
Bet.
No. So
Wait.
if you block the checks, you want to check it because your opponent's more likely to bet into you.
Oh
So
yeah,
when
yeah, yeah.
when you have a strong hand and you block the checks, you want to check.
So I think jack 10 also blocks a little bit, but I think king queen can just rip it maybe. Does it make sense to just rip it with king queen then?
Yeah, you can just shove with king queen if you want to do.
Yeah.
Is jack 10 gonna check more because opponents has two pairs that are higher, and so it wants to catch a bit with it? Like trying to.
So if your opponent has some hands that are stronger than yours, but plenty of hands that are weaker than yours and you're out of position, it usually means that you want to bet to try and get value from those weaker hands, and if your opponent raises, then you can make the decision to call or fold. Here in this hand, it's probably going to be that sort of play. When you're out of position, you've got a strong but not super strong hand. Usually, what you want to bet it. Right here, Jack 10 doesn't block any of the ace X that will call.
Yeah,
it's probably the main one, which means that you want to bet it yourself. And then King Queen, you can go either way. The nuts usually want to have it in both ranges. Obviously, you're going to be betting this far more often than you are checking it, but you can check at low frequency. So here, the main difference is that you notice the difference between ace jack and jack 10. Right, ace jack blocking the ace makes for a pretty good check. Hope the opponent has like a jack 10 or a weaker ace, a weaker two pair or something, or is bluffing, and then they'll shove into you.
Maybe I just didn't see it. Is king queen ever checking?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
So a little bit checking. Obviously, you don't want to trap the nuts too much, but some trapping of the nuts basically means that your expectation is the same between check calling and stuff like that. And also, if your opponent bets smaller, you got an extra hand to shove there, but you do the same thing with S check anyway. Jack 10 just pots it, which is a little bit less than the half, 1.5 pot shove. But if there was more sizes, then I'm sure Ace Jack would do something like 3/4 pot instead of just pot. Okay, hopefully put everything in right. Great. So any questions about that? Have you guys learned something? A lot of donking.
Yeah,
every spot was a donk spot. Every spot was a weird board. Not spots that you see every day.
Yeah,
I'm gonna something an important part of the game tree. Something important that you should try and learn and maybe implement to your own game.
Yeah, I think that just like a broad note, like I think that everyone is missing a lot of donk spots.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely not doing it enough. The classic like basic strategy or whatever that a lot of people do is just like always just check it to the pre-flop raiser type of thing. I didn't want to do that, but I just didn't know how better to do it, so I simplified to that. So basically, look for spots where you have an equity or nut advantage, despite being like the pre-flop passive player, I guess, and go from there.
Yeah. So donking is very important. It's a very important part of your strategy.
Yeah.
And it's especially important to know which turn cards you have to develop a donking range. Otherwise, your opponent is just going to check back too often, and had exploit players that check back too often, right? So when your opponent knows that this turn card or whatever is bad for their range, and they're going to check back like all the time, you should exploitatively bet all your strong hands as a donk.
Yeah.
Right, and then just leave your checking range decimated because you're going to have the second card to outdraw them. Right, you're never going to face that bet on the turn. So there's a lot of turn donking, a little bit of flop donking. Not so many river donks, but it was more the follow up about how you play after you've made the donk.
Yeah.
Rather than just the donk itself. The donk itself is usually a mix of hands.
Yeah.
Knowing some of the hands which not to donk. That's why in some of them there was a not within range. Hands which didn't donk is important. But often when you are in these donk spots, you can donk a very quite a wideish range, with a good variety of hands. And that's important so you get decent coverage. But your donking strategy doesn't capture all the EV unless you know how to follow it up on the next street.
Yeah, I was gonna say the way more important is than donking is just knowing how to play then, right? Like I think the main reason we didn't donk is like I could notice some donk spots, but I'm like, well, if I donk, I don't know what to do next, so I'll just play a line that I'll know how to play better. But yeah, like the King Jack one, the King Jack as the call because you didn't know because you needed some runouts where like to cover the Jack runouts or the King and Jack runouts. So like, first or second question, like that was interesting to me. Like I would just definitely fold that hand.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about in terms of EV, if you don't have enough bluffs to cover those specific ranks, then you want to add some in, and you want to be efficient with which hands that you use. So you just pick hands that cover both those ranks. So that in that specific example, the ranks King and Jack were missing some bluffs to use. So you had King Jack specifically.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. Yeah. Not too much else to say. I'll definitely review this later. I think this is like a serious spot where the board, the 6-5-3, what was it, 4-7, 2 flush draw on the turn.
It's a very rare spot, but players absolutely butcher it.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I think people are just terrible at that spot, right? Like just either randomly bluff it or just call because like, oh, you got to be bluffing here. I think that's an interesting spot to look at. Like it doesn't happen that often, but whatever, it has like 0.5% of the time. I think it's so important to know. You can like gain a lot of EV there. Yeah, I think this was a really interesting one.
All right, great. So I'll leave you guys with the recording, and people at home, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can always just chuck it up in the tutorial and teaching chat.